They sit quietly while the world roars around them. When the stadium lights glow, when billions of eyes fix on a single ball, they look the other way. Not because they hate football, but because something in them moves differently. While others scream for goals, they question why people scream at all. This is not about football. It's about human psychology, about the minds that resist the herd, the souls that choose silence in a world that worships noise. Today, we're diving deep into the hidden psychology of people who don't watch football and what it reveals about the way they think, feel, and live. Let's start with the obvious. Football is more than a sport. It's a modern religion. It has rituals, symbols, heroes, and rivalries. It gives people something bigger than themselves to believe in. So when someone says, "I don't watch football," it's like saying, "I don't believe in what most people believe in." That's not rebellion. It's identity. Psychologists call this social deviance, not in a negative way, but as a sign of individuality. People who don't follow the mainstream often have higher self-awareness and lower conformity bias. They don't seek belonging in the crowd. They seek meaning in themselves. While others connect through collective emotion, these people connect through personal logic. To understand this mindset, imagine being in a sea of passion. Millions cheering, crying, and living for something you don't feel attached to. Instead of being pulled in, you stand back and observe. That's the core of their psychology: independent validation. They don't need popular culture to tell them what's exciting. They don't need the majority to confirm what matters. In psychology, this is known as high internal locus of control, the belief that your life and emotions are shaped by your own choices, not external forces. So while millions feel joy or rage based on a ball crossing a line, these individuals keep their emotions tethered to their own world, their art, their ideas, their silence. There's a strange kind of strength in detachment. Football is designed to create emotional highs and lows, a roller coaster that releases dopamine, adrenaline, oxytocin. It keeps you hooked, invested, and returning for the next emotional hit. But people who don't watch football, they resist that cycle. They find peace in neutrality, in not being swayed by something they can't control. Psychologically, this aligns with emotional regulation and mindful detachment. Traits linked to lower anxiety, better focus, and higher creative output. They see the drama, the tribalism, the media frenzy, and they quietly step away. Not because they don't feel, but because they choose where to invest those feelings. When you stand outside of something the whole world seems to love, you start noticing things others miss. You see how football mirrors society, how people project their identity into teams, how nations find pride in a game, how emotions become tools of unity and division. The non-football watcher becomes the observer, the sociologist of emotion, the philosopher in the stadium's shadow. Psychologists suggest that such people often show analytical thinking patterns. They're less emotionally reactive and more conceptually reflective. They watch patterns instead of players. Where others shout goal, they ask, why does this matter so much to us? Not watching football doesn't mean avoiding excitement. It often means craving the different kind. These people are stimulated by ideas, creation, or solitude, rather than collective competition. They find adrenaline in building, not cheering, in learning, not spectating. In personality research, they often fall under the intuitive, introspective spectrum, individuals drawn to inner experiences more than external displays. Football, to them, can feel predictable. The same rituals, the same emotions, the same commentary. They hunger for depth, for complexity, for silence that speaks louder than a crowd. And maybe that's why they turn the TV off, not to escape entertainment, but to protect their mind from overstimulation. But there's another side to this story, the cost. Not watching football can create social distance. In many cultures, Football is language, a code that opens friendship, bonding, and belonging. So when someone doesn't share that interest, they can feel left out, even alien. Yet most of them learn to compensate. They form smaller circles, or connect through ideas instead of activities. They value depth over commonality, preferring a single meaningful conversation over a stadium full of noise. Psychologists call this selective socialization, the act of choosing quality over quantity in human connection. Now, here's something fascinating. Studies show that people who resist mainstream collective hobbies often score higher on openness to experience and fluid intelligence. That doesn't mean they're smarter. It means they think differently, connecting patterns beyond the surface. While a football fan might analyze strategies, a non-fan analyzes why people care about strategies. They observe culture from above, rather than within. It's not superiority, it's perspective. They see the system, not just the score. And that detached awareness is a rare form of psychological independence. Over time, not watching football becomes more than a choice. It becomes identity. They become the person who doesn't follow the crowd. And in that, there's pride, but also quiet isolation. Because when the world celebrates, they observe, and sometimes that detachment can feel like loneliness disguised as freedom. But maybe that's the trade-off. Freedom often costs belonging, and in that emptiness, they discover something most people never do. That meaning isn't found in noise, it's created in silence. What if not watching football is more than personal choice? What if it's a quiet rebellion against emotional manipulation? Every advertisement, every broadcast, every hype reel, they're designed to pull emotion, to monetize attention. But these people, they keep their attention sacred. They refuse to be programmed by mass enthusiasm. They've built emotional firewalls, not out of apathy, but awareness. They know that the world wants to sell them feelings, and they've simply chosen not to buy. That's not disinterest. That's power. So the next time you meet someone who doesn't watch football, don't call them boring. Don't assume they're missing out. Maybe they just see the world through a different lens, one where passion isn't proven by noise, and meaning isn't measured in goals. Maybe they're the rare ones, the quiet observers in a world of shouting fans. Because sometimes, the loudest minds are the ones who stay silent when the world screams, goal.